Good morning, everybody. 10 a.m. Pacific Time, Thursday, July 27th, 2023. Ask me anything. Here we go. We'll kick it off. I've got all the questions open from the Linchpin Facebook group, as well as screenshots of all the questions from the BTWB Squads feature for Linchpin. There's a bunch of stuff, so I will try to not dilly-dally and see how much of this stuff we can punch through. So let's have a blast. Okay, some upvoted questions here. There's some okay, I'm obviously going to cover the most upvoted questions, but then there's a question today that didn't get a lot of votes, but it is actually a question that I think in all these years I've never received this question in my entire life, and I can't believe somebody asked it. So I might have to answer that just for sheer entertainment purposes. All right, here we go. First most upvoted. From Justin C. I had my first competition over the weekend and did really well. The workouts were posted before the event and I had a run through with them a few times, but during the event I blew those numbers away. Now I'm questioning how hard I'm honestly pushing myself in my workouts at home. So my question is, if you talk about intensity going 85% or 100%, how do you really know? Because apparently I've got another level that I didn't know about. So first of all, congratulations, Justin. That's awesome. You did great at the competition. You had a blast. To get to the root of your question, I'm not shocked that you had that experience. What you experienced is profoundly common. And it's just, you're in an actual competition. There's a little bit of a crowd there. Somebody's playing some hype music. You feel this need to beat the person next to you. You see where you're going to go on the leaderboard. Like all those positive aspects of a competitive environment usually fuel some performances, some adrenaline, some achievements, and it's not uncommon for people to PR in competitions and do profoundly well. I remember a good buddy of mine, Mike G, as a matter of fact, I can't remember what year he went to the games, or it beats me, and this might have been at a regionals event, but he did a power clean. Something was involved with a power clean, like a 1 rep max power clean, and he PR'd his power clean during that competition, live setting, everyone going crazy, and then for him to replicate that same number after the competition, just in his normal training environment, he didn't hit that number for 2 years. There's something to be said about the adrenaline of competition. So I'm not shocked that you had that experience. Shy of, living in a hype facility like that, what most of us can just do probably in real life, hectic schedules, busy, working out when we can work out, etc., is, to the best of your ability, learning about your mind and your body, pushing when you can, and trying to analyze what you feel was, that was a maximal effort. That was 50%. That was 75%. Tracking your data in BTWB and getting this chronological data set that will help you make those decisions. But it wouldn't shock me at all if then you went to some local throwdown or competition, you get yourself worked into a frenzy, and you got to beat a historical number, got a PR. That wouldn't shock me at all. I would think that's very, very normal. What might also help you is the BTWB Tempest feature. It's growing in popularity, but some people still don't know about it. So the Tempest feature on BTWB is you might be alone in your garage, but you can set up a match and throw down with somebody else on that workout in a live sort of setting. And it doesn't matter where they are. You could be in Tennessee, they could be in Greece. And I've used it several times, and I generally am pretty, I don't get rattled by that kind of stuff. But the few times that I've used Tempest, and I've had it on my phone, let's say I'm going to do Helen or Cindy or whatever, and you set up this match, people join the match, and then 3, 2, 1, go, it starts. And when you finish, a round of Cindy, or let's say you're doing Helen, you finish the 400-meter run, you tap your phone or your Apple Watch, and then you see that you advanced, and you're first on the leaderboard, second on the leaderboard. You finish the kettlebell swings, and you tap it again, and there's this real-time back and forth where you might be alone in your garage, but you're actually competing with somebody. And anytime that I use Tempest, I do get those little even though it's a virtual thing, these like little butterflies, and I go a little bit harder, even if I'm trying not to. I mean, so there are some things you can do already linked to BTWB to help you if you want to get a little bit of a push every now and then. So from the home screen on BTWB, open the app from the home screen, hit the, trying to do this from memory, 3 lines in the upper left-hand corner of the home screen. You'll get a drop-down menu. Hit where it says add-ons, tap that, and then you'll see Tempest. If it's toggled on, great. If not, toggle it on, and then you'll get the beta version of Tempest. Make sure your app's updated. You may have to close it and open it. And then on workouts, normally when you look at a workout of the day on BTWB, you've got a little, you can tap some things to look at your previous results. You can tap to log. Well, there'll be a little thing that kind of looks like a clock face. If you tap that, you can create and set up a Tempest match, and then let everyone know the code. They can join, throw down, and it's very cool. And more Linchpin members are starting to use it, and so enjoy. That could be a good one. Let's see. Next most upvoted question from Jason B. Do you think that garage gym athletes lose out on some aspects of training at an affiliate, whether that's the atmosphere, coaching, community, etc.? If so, do you recommend they try and fill these needs in some way, and how, especially when it comes to something like coaching? Great question. So, it just depends. It's a really big, Tempest might be quite helpful with what I just mentioned right there. It's been my experience that it's a really big fitness world out there. And it can be easy to think that what you personally enjoy or don't enjoy, that the masses enjoy or don't enjoy, or what you miss, other people miss, or what you cherish, other people cherish. I mean, there's millions and millions of people working out, and there's going to be millions and millions that thrive in a physical gym, and there's going to be millions and millions that greatly prefer the comfort, convenience, open 24 hours a day-ness of their garage, and everything in between. It's a huge fitness world out there, and both have, pros and cons, I guess you could say, just depending upon what works the best for you. But yeah, I mean, if you're solo by yourself in your garage, well, yeah, you're probably not going to get a lot of coaching. You're going to save a ton of money. It's going to be really convenient, and you might have a great chance of being really consistent with it, and there's no commute. If you go somewhere else, you're probably going to get, at least I hope, you would get some coaching there. You're going to pay profoundly more for it, and you're set to certain times, and there's a commute involved all the time. And neither one's right or wrong, or good or bad. Like I said, it's just, there's millions of people in the world, and what fits your needs, your schedule, your everything. And some people are profoundly happy in that group setting, and other people are, really happy working out in their garage, and they don't miss anything. I adore working out in my garage. That just might be me. I've got no desire to go somewhere else. It's so amazingly just convenient and awesome in there anytime that I want, and I can modify or scale and take up the space that I want, and if I want to take longer with the warm-up, I take longer with the warm-up. I love the freedom, and that freedom actually keeps me working out and keeps me consistent, but that might be different for somebody else. So it just depends upon what fits you, your needs, and all that kind of good stuff. Let's see. But if you are, and there's a lot of great resources out there for coaching, it just depends upon, there's no free lunch, right? And so if you are willing to put in some time and effort on your own, you can learn how to improve your movement on your own. My goodness, I mean, these days, it's not like when I started working out where there was no video resources online. These days, the internet is literally full of free videos showing every movement under the sun in slow motion from every angle. You could learn how to do whatever you want, but you'd have to film yourself, which actually a lot of people film themselves every day. Film yourself, and you could do a side-by-side comparison, and you could get pretty darn good. Maybe not as good as if you were paying a professional to be right there next to you, but then you're going to pay that professional to be right there next to you. So it just depends upon what you want to do with your time, what you want to do with your finances, what level of effort are you willing to put into it, etc., etc. And, you know, everybody's got a choice as to what best fits their needs in their phase of life. Let's see. Next most upvoted from Chris R. If intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing favorable adaptation to exercise, should more of us be doing the scaled version of the workouts until we are consistently achieving the super fitness robot times, or will doing the RX version and getting the more likely time be just as effective? Great question. So that line is intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return of favorable adaptation. That's a mouthful. Okay, let's walk through it. Intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated. So independent variable meaning you can swap that out with something else and see did it get you better results. And most of the time what we find is you're going to come back to intensity. That's what's going to help drive some results for you. Independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return, how quickly something happens, of favorable adaptation. And what we're talking about, that favorable adaptation, would be fitness, would be getting fitter. So in layman's terms, the overwhelming majority of the time, we can turn a lot of knobs. We keep coming back to that intensity knob. That's a really profoundly useful one to get fitter faster. There's the much shorter way to say that. And so the question then becomes, well, if that's the case, should most of us be doing the scaled workouts? Because if we're doing the scaled workouts, we're probably going to do, even though it's a lighter load, but we're going to do it faster, and overall that will probably produce more intensity. And if more intensity gets us fitter faster, is that the play? Or should we do the prescribed and just be in the more likely time? So that little sentence about intensity shouldn't be taken as the end-all be-all, and you shouldn't spiral yourself out of control about that, because what you could say about that is, well, then every single day intensity is what we have to focus on above and beyond everything else. It's the most important thing. Going to chase it every day. That's not going to get you fitter faster, because if that was also the case, well, then I should set up the workouts every day to maximize intensity, right? No, that's not going to get people fitter either. So it's an oversimplification that's not quite true. Because if you actually were just chasing intensity, it's really, really hard to beat the old classic air squat. If you actually do like the, force times distance over time calculation on air squats of the amount of mass that you're moving over the range that you're moving it from the top of a squat to the bottom, back to the top, and how fast you can cycle that movement, so how much work you can do in a 1 minute period, you can just about do more work faster, which that's intensity. Force times distance is work. Work divided by time is intensity, or average power. It's tough to beat 1 minute of air squats for just absolute average power production over the course of a minute. So if that's the case, and we're all chasing intensity, then we should only do 1 minute intervals of air squats, because it's tough to beat that for intensity. And that doesn't seem to make any sense, right? And it's kind of the same deal, getting back to your question. You don't necessarily need to chase intensity every day, okay? You need to have your high, your moderate, and your low intensity days sprinkled in with, instead of chasing intensity, or me programming for quote-unquote intensity every day with every movement, we're going to program those large building blocks, which I've talked about before, to make sure that the athlete's going, those global needs of going below parallel, pulling from the ground, pressing overhead, upper body pulling, the whole 9 yards, hinging at the hip. Are we doing the fast lifts? Are we doing the slow lifts? Modulating, changing up our rep ranges, our loadings, the whole 9 yards, and then allowing days over the course of 5 workouts a week for the athlete to express intensity, and other days for the athlete to work hard, to let the clock continue to run. And maybe it's not this blitzing high intensity day, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. For example, a 5x5 back squat day, all things considered, is not really a high intensity day. It's a tremendous amount of work, it's profoundly valuable, but it's not a super high intensity day compared to some other efforts that we could do. I could have you producing more power in that period of time, but that day is useful and beneficial. Strict pull-ups are not exactly a high power production movement, but they're profoundly useful and beneficial and valuable in developing your overall fitness and capacity as an athlete. And then we sprinkle in days that does allow the athlete to express intensity, and we get the best of all the worlds together. So just like we don't only program for intensity, the athlete shouldn't be overly concerned with, I've got to do whatever is the most intense experience every day because that's going to get me fitter faster. I see how you could follow that bouncing ball, but it's a bit misleading. Now, it just depends on the workout too. We could talk workout by workout by workout with you as an athlete, and I'm sure there are some days that, yep, it actually does make a lot more sense for you to do the scaled workout. And hey, on this day, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be a bit challenging for you. You're going to have to drop the barbell a lot. It's going to be a bit of a slow grind, but that's okay. Because a couple days ago you burned it down like this, and having a bit of a slower grind session today at more of a moderate pace, that's going to treat you just fine. And so it just depends also on the individual workout. Hopefully that helps. All right, let's see some of the more upvoted ones here. Let's see. This is from Neil. Coach Pat, I've been following you in Linchpin since the early days of it. I remember a time when you would post pictures of ice cream. As do I, Neil. I still love ice cream. Although, sadly, I'm like lactose intolerant. Like, ice cream doesn't treat me well. So it's not that I don't love ice cream. It's that ice cream doesn't love me anymore. It broke my heart. Okay. I remember a time when you would post pictures of ice cream and say things like, I'm not afraid to take 2 rest days in a row. Nowadays, we're more likely to hear you say something to the tune of, missing a planned workout hurts my soul. Can you pinpoint anything in your life that flipped the script, or did it just happen gradually as you and the Linchpin community evolved over the years? I think it's a little bit of both. And I've always got one devil on one shoulder. I almost said another devil on another shoulder, but it's not supposed to be a devil on each shoulder, right? One's supposed to be an angel. I've probably got the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, which is, I've tried, and I don't do it perfectly, but I try just to be very real, rational, and realistic of, I understand that consistency and making smart decisions is the keys to the kingdom. Consistency pays off. It really does. It's not any one particular workout that is going to make your fitness or break your fitness. It's consistency. It's putting bricks in the wall. And so the goal should be consistent. And what that means is trying not to miss workouts. Now, obviously, if you need a rest day, take a darn rest day, because overtraining and overextending yourself and doing something stupid, yes, you got in the workout, but you've now potentially, that brick cost you. So hopefully that goes without saying that we're putting intelligent bricks in the wall. So I've tried my best to walk that path of 2 things happening at the same time, which is, I understand that I want to be consistent, and I do really hate missing workouts. I do. I want to get in my workouts because I understand the value and the benefit of them. But I also understand that if I do miss one, it does hurt my soul. But my fitness isn't over. Life didn't end, and even though it irritates me, I'm going to be okay. But man, ice cream. I love ice cream. I really do. I wish I could eat as much of it as I wanted, that I would not gain any unnecessary adipose tissue, and I would just be a ripped, lean animal. And sadly, it's not in the cards for me. All right, let's see. I think we've got some more upvoted ones. Okay, here's one of the more upvoted ones here. This is from Andrew G. All right, Coach, you always say that 1 workout a day is enough when it comes to being incredibly fit. And I agree completely. The proof is certainly there. You've also said that if we want to do more, we always have the freedom to do so. But you feel that doing more is not always better, especially when it comes to the now typical strength plus Metcon format every day. I love your programming, and it truly does work. but every once in a while, I start to get pulled into the quote-unquote do more tractor beam. I avoid it, but the temptation is there. I have seen quite a few people who produce very positive results from that kind of training. My question is, what tips do you have for getting rid of that nagging desire to add more to my training? Or should I just give it a try and see for myself? Sorry for the long-winded question. Love the programming and all you do. Great question. Fantastic question. So let's take it apart a little bit. Well, one workout a day is enough, and you say that you completely agree, and you see that the proof is there. So that's cool. So now we're just talking about not trying to prove or disprove something. Now we've entered that wonderful state of want versus need. So do you need to do more? You do not. Period, end of story. I will take that to the grave. You do not. Do you want to do more every now and then? Sure. Have at it. And that's what I would say. You want to do a little bit more, have a blast. You want to do a little bit of lifting, extra lifting, because you love lifting? Do what you love, because you know what? That's going to keep you fired up and happy about strength and conditioning and working out. It shouldn't just be a chore. Do what you enjoy, So if you want to do a little this or do a little that every now and then, have at it. You want to do a little bit of running? Most people don't. You want to do a little bit of extra running? Do it. You want to do, work some, body weight stuff on the side, whatever it is. You want to sprinkle a little wizard pepper on there? Sprinkle it in. Have a blast. But I would just say it falls into the want versus need. You don't need to do it. You may want to do it and have a blast. And like I said before, it's a huge world, a huge strength and conditioning world out there with millions and millions of people all working out, right? And, there's part of your question you say there with the whole strength plus Metcon format. I've seen some people who this produces positive results for them. I believe that. That's true, because there are millions and millions and millions of people working out, that there's going to be a segment that does work for them. But here would be my real caveat to that. I think it works for them for now, in the short run. I don't think it will work for them 5 or 10 years from now. And I don't think their knees, back, and shoulders will be happy for them 5 or 10 years from now. But today on Instagram, it looks really cool. And in my mind, all roads lead to Linchpin in one way, shape, or form. They really do. As the years go by for all of us, we get more experience, we get more wisdom, and things, you get a couple dents in the fender, you try other things. All roads lead to making smart decisions, doing what you need to do, and then having this wonderful base that if you want to play with, and do a little bit like you said, you have that wonderful base, but you don't need to do it. And so I would say, yeah, go right ahead, check it out, try it, have a blast. I would just be cautious because you do have only one set of knees, back, and shoulders, and that's that. Let's see, is there something else I missed there? No, I think that's that. And we're gonna stay here. Linchpin is, my goal is for it to be the most effective, minimalist, and that's intentional, strength and conditioning program on the planet, to provide you with the minimum dose that gives you the maximum fitness so that you do feel good. And so if you do want to go out and play with a little something, you can play with a little something. You don't need to, but you won't feel so beat up that you're like, it's got to drag into the gym again because my goodness, we got part A, B, C, and D again, and same thing's going to happen tomorrow. Like, I don't want anyone living that life. That's not a good life to live. Live it for a while if you want. Dip your toe in that water. We'll be right here waiting for you if and when that doesn't treat you so well anymore. And so, yeah, but, want versus need, and have a blast. Okay, let's see. All right. Bit of a longer question here from Eric, and it's an interesting one, and then I'll touch on one more, and I think that'll be that. So let's see. This is from Eric M. Hey Pat, my question is related to Tuesday's workout. I want to get your thoughts on how this went, and I think it may apply to others as well. So Tuesday's workout, for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, you can go and look it up. It's Tuesday the 25th. You had a barbell, 155 pounds for men, 105 for women. It was 3 rounds for time of a 400-meter run, 10 power clean and jerks, a 400-meter run, and 20 pull-ups. Oh, you heard me right. It's 3 rounds, and each round has 2 400-meter runs. How fantastic is that? So by the end of this little 3-round workout, you're going to have done 6 400-meter runs, 3 sets of 10 clean and jerk at 155 or 105, and 3 sets of 20 pull-ups. So there's a fair amount of conditioning running in there. There's a fair amount of gymnastics and a fair amount of a robust clean and jerk. So, you needed to be well-rounded to knock this thing out. And of course, there were scale laps and things like that. I remember pulling back into my driveway, and my wife, Emily, had just finished the workout, and she was sitting on the ground in the driveway just looking disheveled and unhappy. And I walked up to her grinning, and all she said was, "What was that?" And I was like, yeah, that's a good one. So, it's a tough one. So first of all, being said, that was a tough one. So back to Eric's question. I looked at the RX, wildcard, scaled, etc. Thought the scaled was a little bit, be a bit too easy for me. The wildcard, didn't quite fit. And I figured I could adjust the clean and jerk down a little bit. So let's see, it looks like he did clean and jerk at 135 and I believe 10 kipping pull-ups per round. By the time I got done with the second round, I was feeling pretty tired, although not completely gassed. And at this point, I'm 30 minutes on the dot. My heart rate was between 165 and 180 for the whole workout. I'm a little overweight, but I've been working out for a while. My question is, what should I have done differently, if anything? Should I have done the scaled or, reached higher like I did for the workout? Or is 2 rounds perfectly fine? Fitness was achieved, etc., etc. Or should I have gutted it out and taken over 40 minutes to do the workout, even though that's way outside the prescribed time? So, for this particular workout, we also said that the super fitness robot time was 19 minutes or less, which is obnoxious, and the more likely time was in the neighborhood of 26 minutes. That's the more likely time. Notice how it's not called the carved in stone time. It's the more likely time. You could be below that, you could be a little bit above it. Now, if you're talking the workout might have taken you over 40 minutes, that's a fair amount above that 26-minute, kind of a window. So I would say absolutely that more scaling should have occurred. Now, I know that you did the 400-meter runs. I know that you did 10 clean and jerks per round at 135, and I know you did 10 pull-ups per round instead of 20. But what I don't know from your question is how long each one of those segments took you, because if I did, then I would have a pretty good assessment as to what was it that really bogged you down. Was it the 400-meter runs? Was it the 10 clean and jerks and that loading, or was it the pull-ups? I'm not sure whether it was the conditioning part, the engine part, the barbell part, or the gymnastics part, or was it a little bit of each? You could have had other options of potentially maybe doing a 200-meter run instead of a 400-meter run each time. Kept the clean and jerks like you said, kept the pull-ups like you said, because you knocked down something about the clean and jerk, the loading. You cut the reps of pull-ups in half, but you didn't do anything to the run. So maybe that would have been the magical component for you if 135 was a really great choice, if sets of 10 pull-ups were a really great choice, but maybe not doing anything to the run is what did it. And it's funny, I think some people will be hesitant to do something like that, to take a 400-meter run and reduce it, but you absolutely could, and especially with a sneaky workout like this that had 2 per round. So maybe what would have been great for you, slash that run in half and do a 200-meter each time. I could have said maybe take out one of the 400-meter runs each time, and that would still overall get you to what I just said of doing one 400-meter run per round is the same as doing 2 200-meter runs. But I like the 2 200-meter runs per round because I wanted that bit of rest, so to speak, although I probably didn't feel like rest during the workout, between the clean and jerk and when you go to the pull-up bar. And had you just taken out one of the 400-meter runs, something would have been back-to-back, and I don't think that would have been ideal for this workout. So that's probably, without knowing a little bit more about your story, what I would have recommended is, I like what you did with the clean and jerk, like what you did with the pull-ups, but take those 400-meter runs and make them a 200-meter run, and you'll be good to go. So, okay, the final question that I'm going to talk about is, I have to just read it even though I only got one upvote, is because I've just never had anyone ask this. I had to read it a couple times because I didn't understand it at first. This is from Todd G. Here we go. Is it okay to temporarily substitute strength-specific workouts with Metcons, or will this potentially be detrimental to my overall fitness? I would do my best to keep the workouts similar to Linchpin in that I would go below parallel, overhead, whatever the workout of the day happened to suggest. But my conditioning needs to improve more than my strength does. Thank you. Does everyone realize what just happened? I think in the 18 years that I've been doing this, I've never had anyone say, I need to work on my conditioning and I'm willing to blow off some strength days because my conditioning needs help. Everybody always thinks strength solves the world's problems, and everyone always thinks that they need to get stronger and they'll blow off all these days and ad lifting. Everyone's ad lifting. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say, you know what? If I'm really honest with myself, my conditioning needs some work. I wonder if I should take a strength day out every now and then and do extra conditioning. I almost had a heart attack and fell on the floor. So, Todd, without knowing a bit more about you, here's what I would say. I would say get in at least one heavy day a week. Okay? Usually at Linchpin we're doing, I would say on average we do one dedicated classic heavy day per week and then one that's sneaky. Whether you see it or not, it's a heavy day at a high heart rate, in all honesty. So there's usually a heavy day classic and a heavy day at a high heart rate. I would want to make sure that you are at least getting in a classic heavy day a week, okay? And then, if maybe that heavy day at a high heart rate comes up and you identify it, and I usually say in the daily video that it's a heavy day at a high heart rate, that might be one where whatever the loading is, you knock it down to not make it a heavy day at a high heart rate, to make it just more of a high heart rate day. And since you would just be knocking down the loading, whatever the barbell thing happened to be, you would be absolutely preserving the stimulus of pulling from the ground, going overhead, below parallel, whatever it happens to be. But I wouldn't, unless you're a very unique and rare bird, I wouldn't say you should just stop doing all heavy lift days and just purely do conditioning. I wouldn't recommend that, just like I wouldn't recommend the other, of somebody who says, well, I think strength is my weakness, and so I'm going to just start blowing off conditioning. Like, no. There's a way to do both. So I would say make sure you're getting in at least one, and maybe on that heavy day and a high heart rate, ratchet that down so you can make it more of a conditioning intensive sort of a burner. Amazing question. Amazing. I thought I'd go to my grave and nobody would ever ask that. All right, well, that's that. There was a question about there's a new 1.5 mile run program. For the longest time I've been saying they've been working on a program, right? And I partnered up with Chris Henshaw. We created a 1.5 mile run program. It's awesome. I'm very proud of it. We worked on it for months and months and months, and you can finally find it. If you go to variednotrandom.com, you can see it there. You can also find it in the BTWB app. Hit the three lines in the upper left-hand column, drop-down menu, hit programs, and then it's under like specialty or CrossFit or something like that, but you can find it at variednotrandom.com. And it's got 3 running workouts a week and 3 strength and conditioning workouts a week. And so if you're already following something like Linchpin, then what you could do is, you could follow the workouts that I put in there, or you could do the 3 running workouts per week and then choose 3 Linchpin workouts to do that week. And if you're going to do 3 workouts that you're going to choose just from our normal week's training, I would pick one heavy day, the best, mimics what we're doing in the program that week, below parallel, pulling from the ground, etc., and then, 2 other workouts. So, yeah, enjoy. It should be a blast. And we picked the 1.5 mile run distance because not only is that very common in a lot of like military, government, law enforcement tests and things like that, but it's a beautiful distance because it's short enough, quote unquote, short enough that if you want to do well, you can't just work on your stamina and your endurance. You have to also develop speed, or you're not going to do good at the 1.5 mile run. But it's also just long enough that it's not a 400 or an 800, even a mile. It's just long enough that if you don't work on your endurance and stamina, you will crash and burn. And so you need both endurance, stamina, and you need speed. And so that 1.5 mile run distance it's like a crossfitting distance. It's fantastic. And if you've got a great 1.5 mile run time, you're fast, you're probably pretty darn good at the 400 and the 800, and you're also probably darn good at the 5K run because it demands endurance. But you could be really good at, running a longer distance and not have the speed to do well in a 1.5. So it's a really useful, fun distance that I think will also help people's overall fitness, and that's kind of the goal. So that's it. Have a great day, enjoy your rest day, and we will talk later.